Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love. The fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. An old hymn that we used to sing when I was growing up, but here's something to think about the next time you take communion. You probably already know that what we call Holy Communion is a symbolic reenactment of the Last Supper of Jesus with his disciples before his crucifixion, or really his lynching at the hands of the religious and the Roman authorities. You may also remember the words Jesus spoke to his disciples during that meal. He said this, "And now I give you a new commandment, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." As Jesus makes clear, this meal that we reenact in communion points to something both tragic and triumphant. It's tragic because it comes before the brutality of the cross, that place where the love of God confronts the injustice of this world. And it's triumphant because on that same cross, our atonement, or our state of being at one with God, comes to pass. So communion, the Lord's Supper, ought to remind me of the beautiful and the bloody ties that bind me to God through Christ. It should also remind me of the ties that bind me to other believers, my brothers and sisters, my fellow members of the body of Christ, about whom the Apostle Paul wrote these words, "Though all its parts are many, they form one body, for we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink." To put it another way, we, the body of Christ, are in this thing together. You know, that thought is both exciting and scary, especially at a time when political polarization makes the walls that divide us higher, when cries for racial justice engender reaction and resistance, when the democratic institutions we cherish seem to be under assault and under threat, and when accelerating climate change makes disaster seem imminent and the future seem tenuous at best. It seems almost ludicrous to talk about ties that bind until we hear with new ears the writer of Hebrews, who in the 10th chapter in the 39th verse reminds us that in the face of the seemingly impossible and hopeless, and I quote, "We are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who believe and are saved." That's our spiritual heritage as we think of the great sheroes and the heroes of the faith, Moses and Miriam, Deborah and Daniel, Joseph and Mary, just to name a few. That's our cultural heritage. We celebrate ancestors who overcame slavery and faced the risks of migration and immigration, those who fought against entrenched and institutionalized injustice. And on top of all that, they raised families, including us, in the hopes of a brighter, fairer, and more godly future for their children. Guess what? Today's another day. And today is the day in which God calls you and me to remember that we are the body of Christ. And the coming of God's kingdom of love and truth and justice and the doing of God's will cannot be complete if we forget the ties that bind us to God through Christ and that bind us to one another. I hope you'll think about that through your day. And I hope you'll think about it especially the next time you share in the sacrament of Holy Communion. God bless you.